Okay, so this week we're talking about obesity in class, and up until this point, it's been considered a morbidity of a lot of diseases. So, for example, if you get a hip fracture and then you become in a lot of pain and you're on pain meds, and there's not a lot you can do until the healing process is complete, so you become very, very sedentary. You gain weight. Because of that extra gained weight, you become more sedentary, and then you eat more and depressed, and stuff like that kicks in, and then it just becomes a very, very bad cycle. um, or let's say you have hormonal issues that make you be a little bit more sensitive to certain things or something like that, and it causes you to gain weight more often. That's one thing. um, and then just other situations like that. But what they're trying to say now is that, or obesity is its own disease all by itself, because what happens is when you're obese, it's considered chronic inflammation, which is a lot of issue within itself. So let's say you have a swollen ankle for months on end. That ankle is not healthy just because of the inflammation itself. It can't get new blood in there. It can't function normally because that inflammation is getting in the way of its normal firing and functioning and things like that. So what they're saying now is obesity is its own disease all by itself. It's not a comorbidity. It's not a secondhand prime or a secondary thing. It's in itself. It's all by itself terrible for you because of that chronic inflammation. So what happens with that chronic inflammation is, one, mechanical stress just gets put on your organs, your lungs, your heart, things like that, because of the weight itself. But two, the heavier you get, the less you do physically because it's hard and it's demanding, which makes sense. Um, but what happens is your blood doesn't circulate. When it's hard to move, so you don't move, and therefore your blood doesn't get circulated, so your arterioles and your arteries don't get used to that increased flow. That's really, really good for the cells of your arterioles and your arteries, and so that nitric oxide decreases because of the damage that gets put on those endothelial cells, which is the inside cells of your arterioles and your arteries. And so the nitric oxide decreases due to damage, and then when it's damaged, it also attracts a lot of you can platelets and things like that, and so it kind of covers it just like a scab would cover a wound on the outside of the skin. The platelets will cover the wound on the inside of the arteries, and it builds like a plaque or a block. And from there, your arteries just start to decrease in size more and more. So you have the mechanical stuff, you have the artery stuff, and then you have the nitric oxide damage, which means you can't dilate those arteries and get blood flow to certain areas. But beyond that, in a emotional or mental way, if you're obese, then that limits you from doing a lot of activities, walking your kids at the park or your grandkids at the park, or walking them through a parade or something like that, then yeah, it's going to lead to mental diseases and psychological diseases as well, just because you're limited in the value of your life. So your lifestyle decreases, and again, that leads to more and more compound issues because you're depressed already, your lifestyle decreases, and then you're depressed because you can't do those things that you normally would because of some sort of mechanical issue like weight, things like that. So I, for one, obviously think it's a primary cause in itself. And then with that, if you're totally healthy and let's say you're 25 years old and then you become obese, that obesity is going to lead to other things as well. So that right there makes it not a secondary cause, it makes it primary, because it's going to lead to other diseases as well. And it's not uncommon for somebody who's obese to be suffering from other things as well.